All right, guys, you're reading a primary source document with questions for history today. We're going to read the questions first, and then I will go through and read the article with you. I don't know how to pronounce some of these names. I don't speak Chinese, so just bear with me, okay? So question 1, as you read these descriptions, what can you conclude about the degree of sophistication and wealth of the author and his native land as compared to the sophistication and wealth of the land that he describes? Number 2, what seems most impressive to the author, and why do you think that? 3, compare Marco Polo's descriptions of urban life in China, including his description of the great city of Qinsei, with a Chinese author's description of Hangzhou, written somewhat earlier during the Song dynasty. This primary source document can be found under the economy section of the main page listing resources on China from 1000 to 1450. What similarities and differences do you find? So how are they the same? How are they different? How does the Chinese description differ from that of the foreigner, be it Marco Polo or an Arab source that Polo drew on? Okay. Okay, excerpts from the book of Sir Marco Polo, The Venetian Concerning Kingdoms and Marvels of the East. Introduction. Marco Polo, from 1254 to 1324, was born in Venice, an Italian city-state, to a powerful merchant family with extensive trade contacts. Marco Polo had the standard education of a young gentleman of his time, knowledge of classical authors and the basic beliefs of the Catholic Church, a good grasp of French and Italian, and skills in accounting. In 1260, Marco Polo's father and his uncle traveled through the Mongol Empire all the way to its capital in China. There they requested trade and missionary contacts. Tradition has it that on a second trip, taken in 1271, on which they carried messages from the Pope, the elder Polos took along young Marco, who was then 17. Many years later, Marco Polo, with the assistance of a romance novel writer, composed a book entitled The Travels of Marco Polo, or A Description of the World. If the book is to be believed, Marco Polo spent 17 years in China, during which time he not only conducted business, but was also hired by the Mongol Yun Emperor to serve as the governor of Yangzhou, a large southern Chinese port city. The veracity of Marco Polo's account is hotly debated among scholars. Some uphold Polo's claim to have been to China, while others argue that he simply picked up tales of China from Arab traders and compiled them into a book. None dispute, however, that the book does contain descriptions of Yuan dynasty China, albeit with the embellishments and inaccuracies that one would expect from text that has been copied and recopied since the 13th century. So not everyone believes that he went to China. Some think he maybe picked up stories from traders. However, they do believe that it does contain accurate descriptions of China at the time. In these excerpts that follow, Marco Polo, or his Arab sources, describes the cities and urban life of Yuan dynasty China. Move this down a little bit. Okay, concerning the palace of the Great Khan, you must know that it is the greatest palace that ever was. The roof is very lofty, and the walls of the palace are covered with gold and silver. They are also adorned with representations of dragons, sculpted in gilt, beasts and birds, knights and idols, and sundry other subjects. On the ceilings, too, you see nothing but gold and silver and painting. On each of the four sides there is a great marble staircase leading to the top of a marble wall and forming the approach of the palace. Lofty means space, so the roof has lots of space, might be very high, and adorned means decorated. The hall of the palace is so large that it could easily dine or feed 6,000 people, and it is quite a marvel to see how many rooms there are besides. The building is altogether so vast or large, so rich and so beautiful that no man on earth could design anything superior to it. Dine means to feed, vast means large, and superior means better than. Concerning the black stones that are dug in Cathay and are burnt for fuel. It is a fact that all over the country of Cathay there is a kind of black stone existing in beds in the mountains, which they dig out and burn like firewood. If you supply the fire with them at night, and see that they are well kindled, you will find them still alight in the morning, and they make such fine fuel that no other is used throughout the country. It is true that they have plenty of wood also, but they do not burn it, because those stones burn better and cost less. Moreover, with the vast number of people and the number of baths they maintain, for every one has such a bath at least 3 times a week, and in winter, if possible, every day, Whilst every nobleman and man of wealth has a private bath for his own use, the wood would not suffice for this purpose. So one, it's cheaper to burn the stones than it is to burn wood. They last longer. And also, they take baths so often that they would not be able to keep enough wood. It's easier to use the stones. Okay, of the noble city of Saju. Saju is a very great and noble city. The people are idolaters, subjects of the great Khan, and have paper money. They possess silk in great quantities, from which they make gold brocade and other stuffs, and they live by their manufactures and trade. The city is passing great, and has a circuit of some 60 miles. It hath merchants of great wealth, and an incalculable number of people. Indeed, if the men of this city and the rest of Manzai had but the spirit of soldiers, they would conquer the world. But they are no soldiers at all, only accomplished traders and most skilled craftsmen. There are also in this city many great philosophers and leeches, diligent students of nature. Description of the great city of Kinsay, which is the capital of the whole country of Manzai. When you have left the city of Chang'an and have traveled for 3 days through a splendid country, passing a number of towns and villages, you arrive at the most noble city of Kinsay, a name which is as much as to say in our tongue the city of heaven, as I told you before. And since we have got thither, I will enter into particulars about its magnificence, and these are well worth telling, for the city is beyond the dispute the finest and the noblest in the world. This we shall speak according to the written statement which the queen of this realm sent to Bayan, the conqueror of the country, for transmission to the great Khan, in order that he might be aware of the surpassing grandeur of the city, and might be moved to save it from destruction or injury. So the city is so wonderful that it needs to be saved from destruction. First and foremost, then, the document stated the city Kinsay to be so great that it hath as 100 miles of compass. There are in it 12,000 bridges of stone, for the most part so lofty that a great fleet could pass beneath them. Remember that lofty means tall. The document aforesaid also went on to state that there were in this city 12 guilds of the different crafts, and each guild had 12,000 houses in the occupation of its worksmen. The document aforesaid also stated that the number and wealth of the merchants and the amount of goods that passed through their hands was so enormous that no man could form a just estimate thereof. Inside the city there is a lake, which has a compass of some 30 miles, and all around it are erected beautiful palaces and mansions of the richest and most exquisite structures that you can imagine, belonging to the nobles of the city. There are also on its shores many abbeys and churches of the idolaters. In the middle of the lake are 2 islands, on each of which stands a rich, beautiful, and spacious edifice, furnished in such style as to seem fit for the palace of an emperor. And when any one of the citizens desired to hold a marriage feast, or to give any other entertainment, it used to be done at one of these palaces, and everything would be found there ready to order, such as silver plates, trenchers and dishes, napkins and tablecloths, and whatever else was needful. The king made this provision for the gratification of his people, and the place was open to everyone who desired to give entertainment. Sometimes there would be at these palaces 100 different parties, some holding a banquet, others celebrating a wedding, and yet all would find good accommodation in the different apartments and pavilions, and that in so well ordered a manner that one party was never in the way of another. Okay, you need to answer the questions, whether they're the ones on the bottom of this page or the ones that Mr. Hartman assigned on Google Classroom. Make sure you finish it and you submit it on time so that you don't get points counted off.